Do we all remember that 7-0 start that Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury had in 2021? I do. And do we all remember that 4-6 end to the season that they had? And then they got boat raced in the playoffs on national television on a Monday night. I certainly did. Well, it was another edition of Kliff Kingsbury's late season chokes, the second straight one that the Cardinals were trying to avoid in 2022. But the problem was they didn't do much in free agency due to the limited salary. They also lost DeAndre Hopkins to a 6-game suspension for violating an NFL performance-enhancing drug policy. And, well, to try and compensate that, they got receiver Marquise Hollywood Brown during the 2022 NFL draft from the Ravens. And then, to try and compensate that even further, Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury were rewarded for their success from the last couple of seasons with big fat contract extensions during the offseason. And Murray got a even fatter one. And we all remember the notable homework clause that was originally in there. Because, well, you know, there are all those reports of Kyler Murray not taking his shit seriously and him playing Call of Duty all the damn time. So even then, everyone was just, I guess, simply expecting. My grand point is everyone was simply expecting whether or not Kyler Murray and Kliff Kingsbury were once again, like they did the last 2 years, going to choke again late in the season after a good run, a good start to the season. All safe to say that we didn't even have to wait till the end of the season, the late second half of the season for that to happen, because it happened at the start of the season. So it happened well throughout the season because the Cardinals were very inconsistent from the jump. I mean, Kyler Murray was, typical Kyler Murray, finding it, evading pressure out of the pocket, used his legs to extend plays. Decision making though was very often iffy. It didn't help that Murray was missing his top receiver in DeAndre Hopkins, sure. And third man, Rondale Moore, nursed a hamstring injury for a good amount of games. And he's still trying to establish something with Marquise Hollywood Brown. But still, it felt like Arizona lost a good amount of its identity as an air raid aggressive offense. Not only that, it didn't help that the injuries began to pile up all season long. Starting center Ronnie Hudson played 4 games, but eventually got placed on injured reserve. Rondale Moore, again, only played 8 games before being placed on injured reserve in December. Starting safety Budda Baker and corner Byron Murphy also missed the last few games of the season. Zach Ertz tore his ACL in Week 10. Most notably, Kyler Murray tore his ACL and MCL in Week 14. And backup Colt McCoy also missed time late in the season due to concussion. Never got out of the concussion protocol. So, yeah, they were also very injury-riddled throughout the season. But even with all the injuries piling up late in the season, or as inconsistent as the offense was, sometimes they would do, sometimes they do pretty bad. They went, like Murray would often miss his receivers. Murray would turn the ball over. But then you'd have moments like where Murray led like this crazy comeback against the Raiders. And then the next week, he wouldn't show up against the Rams. But even after all the injuries were piling up late in the season, the Cardinals were still cutting it close in their final few games of the season. But it was the coaching decisions of Kingsbury, along with the limitations of what they had during that portion, that undid them. I will say, the one positive of Arizona's season was that defensive end J.J. Watt at least got to have a solid impact in his final 2 games against the Bucs and the 49ers. Yes, J.J. Watt decided he was going to retire at the end of the season. But still, Arizona finished with a very disappointing 4-13. And yeah, well, it was a very disappointing one, mainly due to injuries, mainly due to the inconsistency of the offense. At least it led to something more positive. The Cardinals finally fired Kliff Kingsbury, even though it should have happened after they lost in embarrassing fashion against the Rams. At least they finally got it done. I'm just glad. It finally got through. But whether they found the right replacements, it's still to be determined by how they do in the offseason. They found their new general manager in Monti Ossenfort. Why they got a new GM? Because Steve Keim, the other general manager, went on a personal leave late in the season, and then he eventually resigned. Ossenfort was a longtime scout for the New England Patriots. He last served as a director of player personnel for the Tennessee Titans. So this will be his first general manager job. So he at least kind of has some experience for a Super Bowl champion. And then replacing Kliff Kingsbury as head coach is former defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jonathan Gannon, who was hired just 2 days after a Super Bowl appearance. But just keep in mind, though, his touted defense, his top-ranked passing defense, got torched by Patrick Mahomes. But then again, it was Patrick Mahomes. So these two are coming into what's going to be interesting offseason. Kyler Murray, I'm not sure how his recovery is going to be with the torn ACL, but I think looking back at Carson Wentz, I mean, it's not a fair comparison per se, but I'm just saying that when Carson Wentz tore his ACL in Week 14 of 2017 against the Rams, he didn't come back until I think it was Week 3 of the 2018 season. Murray tore it in Week 14 against the Patriots. So I imagine a similar timeline is in order. But again, people recover in different ways. So it still is kind of imperative that the Cardinals kind of plan towards Murray being out at least the first 2 or 3 games of the season. So the problem is, though, they don't really have much cap space to work with. They have around $13 million, which is kind of modest, but still have some key things to address. Some of your free agents to look out for is defensive end Zach Allen, a key piece in the pass rushing rotation in 2022, along with J.J. Watt. Corner Byron Murphy's a free agent, kicker Matt Prater, and punter Andy Lee. So pretty much your whole special teams unit right there. Some of the things that you need to address this offseason is mainly the defense. Because last year's free agency loss of edge rusher Chandler Jones, it left the pass rush something to be desired. Sure, J.J. Watt went on a good run late in the season, and Zach Allen was solid, but they didn't really have much help on the interior. So they could certainly use some help when it comes to interior rushers. And Zach Allen's set to be a free agent, and I think Arizona can sign him to a decent deal, and maybe potentially get a big name on the market. But who knows? They mostly have their starters intact, but they should add some depth with a lot of help. A lot of them heading for free agency. And then they should find a backup quarterback for Colt McCoy until Kyler Murray is healthy enough to return. So, like I said, it seems like Kyler Murray should be coming back around Week 3 or 4 of next season, if the math is correct. But in the meantime, Colt McCoy is going to be running the offense for the first few games of the season. And if he gets hurt again, Arizona should want to sign someone at least reliable. Maybe draft somebody in the much later rounds of the draft, depending on what they have in store, because their third or fourth string quarterbacks in Trace McSorley and whoever it was we played against, the Niners played against Arizona in the last game of the season. It didn't look good. It didn't look good. So for Arizona, yeah, they finally ended the Kliff Kingsbury reign of terror. Maybe a year too late. I don't know, but it's finally over for them. But now we get to at least see Kyler Murray. What can he do under a new head coach? It might have to wait a couple of games, though, because, still recovering from the torn ACL. But that coach in Jonathan Gannon is going to be facing that early challenge. Obviously, he has to restock on his defense. He's also have to retool his offense on what's going to be at least the first 3 weeks of the season in this fall. it's a new dawn in the desert. Let's see how the Cardinals handle this offseason in terms of adjusting to at least a few weeks without Kyler Murray in the regular season this fall. If the wings spread or if they further die for the Redbirds in Arizona.